Pursuit, one of the noblest pursuit of mankind.
Right.
To me, friendship is the peak relationship you can have with another person. It is the chief relationship.
Yeah.
It's the most voluntary relationship. It's the most connecting relationship. And honestly, it is the most intimate relationship. And knowing and being known is friendship language.
Yeah.
Welcome to our back porch. We are two authors and artists happily married for over 20 years, parenting two boys and sharing glimpses of our lives with you. Lean in and listen to our unedited conversations as we share on art, parenting, politics, culture, and how our Christian faith colors it all. I'm Dale Fincher, with my wife here with me, Jonalyn Fincher, and this is our back porch conversation.
Hi, guys.
So today's conversation is why we don't confuse fellowship with friendship. There's a fun one.
Being raised Christian, I think it's very easy to assume they're pretty much the same thing.
Absolutely. And fellowship has almost become like just a standard cliche. People just throw the word out all the time.
Yes.
Here, come over here and fellowship, or after the church, why don't you fellowship? I grew up in a church that had a fellowship hall. It was a hall for fellowshipping. It was just a word everybody used.
I think a lot of people are familiar with that experience.
Yes.
And I remember someone telling me that my dad was out of fellowship with him. And so I assume that means they just, couldn't eat donuts together.
Right. The word kind of comes with all this like assumption in it, but nobody talked about what it meant. I mean, yeah, they'll go into now the word for fellowship in the Greek is koinonia, and then they will talk about koinonia for a while, but they're not. I'm
just convinced as they're talking that they're not someone I want to have fellowship or friendship with.
Don't give me all that koinonia stuff. Leave your coins to yourself.
I don't want to hear about the root of the word. It's like talking about how to properly kiss someone, and now I will demonstrate.
Right.
Not on me.
And the root of the words often, doesn't add any more clarity. It just makes you sound pompous. And so it's like, okay, so have we actually translated the words properly, or do we have a secret knowledge of this fancy Greek words? And every translator in history has been wrong except me. Also, we have some special Kool-Aid in the fellowship hall afterwards if you'd like to drink it.
I mean, I want to be kind to those people who really love the roots of words.
I love the roots of words.
We are those types of people, but
they don't make you special.
No, and I'd like to just talk about what the word means in regular Christian culture and why we see it as different as friendship. And since friendship is not something that's really talked about enough, I think it's a great topic.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, this topic actually came up in a discussion I was having on X recently, where someone shared, what has been my story like. And I said there was two big struggles of my life. There's been more than this, but just giant themes of, first of all, struggling to find God, and then struggling to find his people.
Yeah, it's such a great summary of your whole life.
Thanks. And I just put it out there. And somebody shared, I would love to hear more about that. And I said, well, for the first one, you could relive in the questions. And they said, I actually did read it, which was cool. I thought that was awesome.
That's amazing that someone is following you on X who's read your book.
Who took the time. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I wonder who that is.
It's worth taking the time for. It's a good book. And then as far as God's people, I was like, well, here are some of my story, and I shared my PCC videos.
Pensacola Christian College spiritual abuse videos. Look them up on YouTube. Dale Fincher, Pensacola Christian College.
They're unlisted, so if you want to watch them, you have to write me at hello@dalefincher.com.
That's cool. They get special access. I love it.
Yes, but let me say my address again: hello@dalefincher.com, and say I would like to have access to the PCC videos, and I will give that to you. It's 3 hours, but it's 19 separate stories, and each one is titled in a very clear way, so that you can go to the one that interests you most. Such a hard time. It's a hard time finding God's people when you think you have found God's people and they're abusing you in God's name. And then you're sifting through the just mountains of fakery and hypocrisy and even sincerity that is so misguided. And then you find the few who really do love God and know God. And they stand out, and sometimes they even look rebellious, but they're not. Jesus looked super rebellious too. He did. Not because he sought out rebellion, because he was really pursuing God, and he was unflinching. And the powers that be and the structures that be were not bendable to that, old wineskins. So I share with this person, what does that mean to you? Here's my thing. They're like, oh, how did you find fellowship? I said, what does fellowship mean to you? And they said fellowship is, for them, knowing and being known, praying together, sharing meals together.
Interesting. So, I'm just going to close this door because I can hear the boys playing with their gaming time through the door, and I don't want that to distract our listeners.
Yeah, it's on the back porch. We're in Jonalyn's art studio, which is pretty cool.
Because there's a blizzard outside. No back porch to be enjoyed.
That's right. So that's how they described it. And so actually when I read that, I responded, I don't think this is fellowship. This is what you're describing is something else. But then I brought it to you and I was like, you know what, this would make a good topic, I think. Because I think a lot of times in the springboard really for all this is that, and my concern is that we have certain expectations about church people, the church experience, that it is supposed to meet a certain need. And the thing that meets that need is fellowship. And when I was hearing this person share this, I thought, that is the expectation. I could hear the hunger in his or her words. Where do you find this? How do you have it? And it's like, well, if you're going to church to know and be known, like church services, if you're going to share meals, if you're going to pray together, what and that isn't happening, how deeply discouraging to think I am in a quote unquote fellowship of believers and I'm not having my definition of fellowship.
Well, I can see why small groups were invented to fill that void. And small groups have kind of become that place where you can obligate people to be in fellowship with you even if they don't even like you, which is super sad. I don't mean to be discouraging to the people who are in small groups, because some people are in wonderful small groups. And when I say small groups, for those of you who are not part of Christian culture, I just mean groups of adults usually who meet regularly,
like 10 people
outside of the regular Sunday meeting and chat about a Bible passage or a book that they're going through. Usually they share their prayer requests and pray together. Sometimes they'll share a meal together.
Yeah, it's like a mini book club or Bible club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also kind of a built-in belief that you are also holding each other accountable about something.
Yes.
And I think it reminds me a little bit of that line in The Office when Michael Scott is sharing about being on a kids show and he's interviewed and he says, what's your dream, Michael? And Michael's like this little 5-year-old. He says, my dream is to grow up and get married and have 100 kids, and then I would always have a friend because all my kids would have to be friends with me and they could never leave. And it's so pathetic and it's so sad and sweet at the same time because we all kind of can relate to that, the
feeling alone and
feeling like, how do you get a friend to stick with you?
Build insecurity.
And how do you find them? And I think that's probably the reason friendship isn't talked about in churches a lot, is that friendship is as mysterious as the spirit. It dissolves as soon as the person doesn't want to show up and be present with you. And once a friendship is strong-armed or forced in any way, you lose the
it evaporates.
The number one ingredient.
It evaporates.
The self-selected. You get to choose. You get to choose to show up.
Yeah, yeah.
And every day, even in our family, as I'm homeschooling the kids, I know a good home education morning is when, in our classroom time, the boys have decided to show up. Like today, when Ollie showed up and he painted an abstract painting while I was reading out loud to him, The Wind in the Willows. He was just using up that paint. That's why he painted that piece. It wasn't an assignment. It was just his heart. And I gave him a big hug afterwards and I said, you put your heart and soul into this painting. And I'm so proud of you for showing up. Because he showed up in friendship with me to share his gifts. And a lot of the times in art class, he does not.
Yeah, that was special.
But back to our topic, the difference between fellowship. You're just defining the term.
People create these, they create the small groups. I remember about 25 years ago when I first started hearing the phrase, we do small groups because we want to do life together.
Yes,
and so,
I remember that.
And the danger, of course, and everybody understands this, even those who are diehard believers in small groups, is that that's no guarantee of doing life together, and often it's not accomplishing that purpose. But it does have a purpose. It creates a built-in schedule for connecting. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, it is like, yes, if you need that built-in schedule, or if you need help getting to know people who are outside your social sphere, then something like this can be quite helpful for you to connect to other people. But let's talk about fellowship a little bit first, what it can mean, what it should mean, what we should expect of it. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously we've already shared how it doesn't really satisfy what we're looking for, because what we're looking for is friendship, and then we can talk about that.
Yes, well, can we start with that definition from X, where the guy said this is what fellowship means, sharing a meal, knowing and being known. Would you agree with his definition of fellowship?
No, I don't agree with it at all. I think that the description he was articulating, he or she, was friendship.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm looking for friends.
I agree.
And that is like the noblest pursuit, one of the noblest pursuit of mankind. Right. To me, friendship is the peak relationship you can have with another person. It is the chief relationship.
Yeah.
It's the most voluntary relationship. It's the most connecting relationship. And honestly, it is the most intimate relationship. And knowing and being known is friendship language.
Yeah, it is.
It is closer and is a deeper relationship than romantic relationships, even though romantic relationships have a procreative intimacy with it, that there's a certain level kind of intimacy you cannot have in your marriage by merely having procreative intimacy. It has to be friendship. And if you're not moving your partnership together and building a family into friendship, you're not having the greatest intimacy you can enjoy. It's not passion. Romantic passion is not the deepest intimacy. Friendship is it. So knowing and being known, automatically I felt like this person was saying, I want friendship, but they're labeling it as fellowship. So imagine going into a church and you're like, in this church we have great fellowship. We're going to have fellowship time. It'd be like, great, this is the place where I'm going to be known.
Yeah.
No. Small talks. Now that's a small talk session.
Yeah, it's a big letdown.
This is not where you're going to be known. This small talk session is where, people who kind of know each other a little bit say, hey, how was your week? Mine was good too. Oh, we got that, thing. I got an appointment at the doctor and stuff. Like, oh man, I'm going to pray for that. I hope that really goes well. Everybody's kind of like for each other and all that. That is actually what fellowship is.
Yes.
But it's not intimacy. Knowing and being known. That's really not what fellowship is about.
Yes.
So I would disagree with that definition of this person on X, but I have great compassion for it, because I'm like, all you have to do is change the word and say you are hungry for friendship.
Yes.
100%. And these are noble and proper things to love. The idea of praying together. Mm-hmm. Now, you can go to a church service and you can be prayed for. You can get around a group of men or women in the men's breakfast or the women's social or whatever, and you can pray together. You can even pray before the events. The church soccer game, or I know a construction crew that are all people who follow and love Jesus, and they pray every morning before they begin that.
Right.
Those are moments, yes, of fellowship. They can be, but when it comes to really being prayed for, really having that interaction or prayer with somebody on a constant basis, that is friendship level, because prayer easily can slip into areas of deep intimacy, of knowing and being known. Mm-hmm. And that level of intimacy cannot be contrived with people you don't know. Mm-hmm. They could pray for you. Yes. You could pray for them. Yes. And actually really not know them, not have that vulnerability that only comes with good friendship. And quite frankly, you're not supposed to have that level of intimacy with somebody who has not proven themselves to be trustworthy and having great friendship. So you can be prayed for, and you can pray for other people, but you don't have to be close. And that's fine. But if you really want to engage in those deeper things, like I really need prayer in this because I'm struggling with this kind of anxiety that's like this and this and this, and it goes back into my history. I know all about that because we're friends. And so I can pray for that for you, and I can intern that with you because our friendship allows me to do it, but not fellowship. not the deep stuff, on my view. The third thing that they shared was sharing meals together. Again, you could share meals together, but if you expect somebody to say, hey, come on over for the pizza, it's really great. Most people are not going to be proactive to people they don't know very well. They're going to invite their friends over to do that. And that's what we want. I want my friends to spontaneously say, hey, I threw some extra ribs on the barbecue. Why don't you come over and, bring your favorite lager? You're like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Thanks for giving me the 2-hour heads up so I can grab the lager and head over. That's what friends do. But the thing that somebody is not your friend just because they go to your church house, they might do it for you, but it's mostly as an outreach and not usually out of friendship. And a lot of church people are good at that. I mean, there's different churches we've been a part of where when you're new there, you get to see who the lay leaders are because they're the ones who spot the new people. And then they're like, hey, why don't you come over to this thing we're doing? Like, oh, wow, they're super friendly. Let's go on over and check it out. And we get to be part of it. And then you notice after a few months, they start to trail off in your life. And you're like, oh, that's not a friend. That was an introduction person trying to help you get involved in the community, and they felt like it was like their calling or special role they had to play to do that.
Right.
And so that's fine, actually. That might be the role they play in that community, but don't confuse it with friendship.
Yes, I think it's important to just point out at this point that fellowship is not something that is stupid to want or to work on. It's actually got a very important place, and I think I would like to...
And I was answering your question about what I thought about that, so I shared the three different aspects.
This is not a rebuke. This is just, I think now is the time is right.
So what is fellowship?
What is fellowship?
Fellowship. I like to think of fellowship as fellows on a ship. And I'm dead serious about it. What is a ship? A ship is a vessel that is going someplace and it's on a mission from one port to the next. It has a destination and it's carrying cargo of some kind, whether it be people or resources or whatever. That is what is happening. And everybody on that ship is a fellow for the mission. Fellowship in the Bible refers to it as people who are participating in the same kind of mission together. People are participating in the same kind of property, partners, connection around a vision. That's fellowship. So in a whole bunch of, in a university, you talk about so-and-so is a fellow of the such and such department. But like they're a fellow because they're joining in, they're a fellow of archaeology. That's great. They're joining in with our archaeological mission and project. They're not joining in to have prayer services or be your best friend or to be involved in all your pizza parties. It's like, no, they're here for the mission of what we're doing. So they show up at the classroom time. They go out on the excavations and everything like that. That's a fellow. We even use the phrase like in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, which is the first of that book. And what is the Fellowship of the Ring? Everybody who knows the story knows the Fellowship are the 9.
Right, that was a very helpful concept to me because you brought it up right away. The first group that came to mind within the Fellowship is Frodo and
Sam?
Boromir. Those are the first 2 I thought of.
That you thought of.
Because
Frodo
I'm like,
Boromir, yes.
They're not friends. I mean, Frodo, for his part, was friendly towards Boromir, but Boromir did not treat Frodo as a friend, not till the very, very end, when he realized his being grasping and trying to get the ring from him. So I thought that was helpful because I can see they were on the same mission together, but Boromir, while he defended the hobbits and all that, his mission was... Actually, could you say they were on mission together?
Elrond sent them all on the mission. Gandalf and Elrond.
He had a secret mission.
Well, he might have, but he was part of the Fellowship. Whether he has ulterior motives in the back of his mind or not is irrelevant.
Yes.
To him being chosen from the race of men, because you have the elves, the dwarves, the wizard, and the race of men, Aragorn, Boromir, all together, the 9, to be on this mission to destroy the ring. And then on the mission, Boromir is like, maybe I can kind of...
Yeah, I'm getting kind of lost in the weeds.
Maybe we could take this with us to Gondor.
I like this example because it's very much with like being fellows on a ship. Because I can be on the same mission with someone, but I'm not going to tell them, please pray for me because of this issue. It's very personal and private. They're not friends in the old sense of close, not friendship, not Facebook friends. I mean, friends who really know you, have that intimacy. That is much more rare. And when I go to a church, I am having fellowship with everyone here, it's an automatic, like, oh, good, everyone here's on the same mission of wanting to love Jesus.
And that's what a great thing about walking into a lot of churches.
I want to share my prayer requests with all of them. And this is where I
want to eat meal with them or be friends with all of them.
Yes, this is where the churches often get it wrong, is that they assume that because we're all on the same mission, we should all therefore easily become friends, or you need to work on the discipline of friendship with whoever's in your youth group or singles group or small group. And that's where you and I disagree with that idea. Is just because you're in fellowship with someone does not mean you should become friends with them.
Yes, you shouldn't have a false intimacy with somebody that you're merely in fellowship with. I can't imagine having a false intimacy or trying to like conjure up intimacy because I have a fellowship mission with my realtor to buy and sell real estate.
Or with my book club, in my military book club right now, there's a really clear line of what's appropriate conversation for when we meet for our hour each week. And that's about the book and military history, maybe some politics. But if I start sharing about how I was struggling to paint something, they're going to look at me like, that's not an appropriate topic for what we're doing here.
You're out of fellowship.
Yeah, I've stepped outside of the fellowship. I've stepped outside of the mission why we're all here.
That's right. If you get on one boat, if you're on one boat and you want to jump on another boat or even jump overboard, you're no longer a fellow on the ship. And I think that metaphor totally works.
Yes, it does. So
now, to your friends, which we'll talk more about friendship later, to your friends who are on fellowship in the meeting will continue to be your friends when you walk out of the meeting, walk to your car, and talk about the next thing you're going to be doing.
That's right. And that's what I think, personally, the churches would do well to notice how people become friends out of fellowship. So, for example, we all became, as a family, closer friends because we literally sailed Lady Grey across the ocean. We were in fellowship with our captain, who was like a co-captain across the ocean. However, I wouldn't say he's a friend. Well, I mean, he's a friend, but like in the Facebook sense.
He became
a friend. But it was a separate section of his life that arose and was shared because we were in fellowship on the boat.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not a requirement. You're not a bad fellowshipper if you do a fellowship with someone, have some sort of fellowship experience, and you don't become friends. That doesn't mean you failed.
That's right. So if somebody were to say, you're out of fellowship with me, what it should not mean is that we have a disconnection in our relationship towards one another. To be out of fellowship means I am leaving the Rotary Club because I don't like the mission.
Yes.
I'm leaving this church because I don't like the mission. There's dysfunction in the leadership or something. I'm out of fellowship. I may not be out of friendship because there might be good people.
We've done that many times in our life when we had to step away from our family foundation. We left the mission of the family foundation and we stayed in friendship with some of the members.
That's right. That's exactly right. So we are out of fellowship in that regard, but still in friendship.
It's a really important distinction.
And I think that, now some people might be like, well, there's some ways that times that friendship and fellowship overlap. Be like, yeah, that's totally fine. Sure. Okay. But to me, focusing on those things is doing a disservice to the reality that fellowship and friendship are separate things. Because we have conflated fellowship into friendship so often that we have lost track of the mission, because now we think the mission is about the other people in the group and not about we're all advancing
a certain mission
the
together.
Kingdom of God together in the church service. You know, we're advancing the culture of the kingdom of God in our lives, in our families. We're all supporting each other for that. How's your walk with God today is a word that people would use, meaning how is your integrity? How is your connection with God? Because that's what we do in fellowship together, is cheering each other on to say, are you walking with God? Is he your friend? Here's a friend. Are you walking with him? Are you doing good by the other people around you? Are you advancing the culture of the kingdom of God? Is his will in heaven being done on earth where your footsteps fall? That's what the mission is together. And of course, praying for each other in the middle of all that, asking God for miracles where you need it. But that's the mission.
Well, I think that's where people get a little tripped up, because they end up saying, well, if I'm going to be if I'm going to be supporting my fellows, then I need to do this type of intimate praying for them, or I need to know these intimate facts about them, because walking with God is a very intimate mission. And I think that's kind of confusing. It's much more confusing than saying I'm in fellowship with my military book club. It's really clear those lines. Whereas if you believe that we are worshiping a God who has ideas about everything, who is an intelligent being, who wants us to open all the closets of our heart, then all of that material could, I suppose, be said are appropriate things to share in fellowship with other people on the mission. And I think that's where you get this kind of forced intimacy in small groups.
Yeah. And I would say that I would not share that with most people that are in the church, but as I'm developing relationships and friendships with people inside the fellowship, those would be the people that I'm knowing and getting known by. They know me, I'm knowing them. And that's where more of those intimate questions can come along. But to the general fellowship, we examine, without even knowing somebody, we examine each other's behavior. And we see whether or not, and the leadership in a group like that would be like, oh, I notice your behavior. Like you're in a military book about reading about military history, but I notice that you're reading Lord of the Rings fantasy literature. That fellowship is down the hall. And we can read that among Christians. I notice you every time you come to church, you come drunk. I'm studying your behavior and I see that's not what we are about here. If you need help with that and you want to be about that, we have resources to help you. But you can't come in. The prostitute doesn't just simply come in and say, I'm going to be in fellowship here while continuing to advance the kingdom of the devil. I mean, like, that's not what we're about here, and I could see it in your behavior. But as we get to know each other more and more and more as friends, and as you get, and we'll talk about friendship in a minute, but as you get to know people more and more, those connections about where are you at in the fellowship, how are you advancing the cause in your own life, only friends can get to those deepest, most intimate levels.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
But I agree, there's a certain level of false connection or fake intimacy that can happen in this. And I would want to warn anybody to say, you could be in fellowship with a lot of people and not be very well known by them. It's okay.
That is what I think is missing. I feel that I sense the pressure that Christians put on themselves to create the confessional time, to reveal things, to prove to their fellows that they are sincere, things that they should only be revealing to friends.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I totally have seen that.
Almost like proving something.
I have seen that, yes. And I'd like to let you use the word confessional, because there are times to do public confessions, maybe to people that you don't know. But I think most confessions are done to God and to people that you know, particularly to people that you've wronged. That's what confessions largely are for. But even in our own hang-ups, we go to people that we can trust and that can help empower us. But the big general shotgun confessions that are like fake intimacy. And you might need to do shotgun confessions in an AA meeting, but now you're in fellowship for a particular cause. Each one of us needs to get sober, and we know that brutal confession is one of the only ways we can do this. But it's to our group, and it's in the safe group.
Absolutely.
And we are intentionally, part of our fellowship is to build intimacy around our shortcomings as it relates to alcohol. But it might not be our shortcomings relates to a whole bunch of other things.
Right. I think that the church would do well to notice where other fellowships do things better than we are doing in most churches.
Because they're not assuming more intimacy.
Yes, and they're grouping around sub-missions rather than this huge mission of all small groups are about walking with God. Yeah, well, everyone here is about that. How about a subcategory of walking with God plus? Walking with God, and we're interested in military history. I would love to be in a small group that I could know everyone there cares about truth and believes it. You can actually judge the acts of the past, and we're reading a military history book together.
I love that. The assumptions that actually there's real things to know about the past. I only want to be studying with people who care about truth.
Yes, and people who think you can judge the past and judge the present.
And that God's finger is in the middle of things, yes.
I would love that. Or that all the subjects belong to Him, and you can try to integrate the different disciplines as you're studying. And I'm sad that the groupings of fellowship have been like the lowest common denominator of like, okay, we love God, we're following him, and we're all kids, or we're all singles, or we're all marrieds, or we're all the same age. Because I have a lot more in common along interest lines with people who are following God than I do along age lines.
Well, sometimes it has to do with like the region and town that you live in. And you might not have a lot in common with a lot of the people in your own little spot in town. But that's how a lot of times the larger churches group people together. Oh, you guys who live in those neighborhoods, you all get together.
Oh, you mean for small groups?
Yeah.
Yes,
Isn't that what you're referring to? Age limit, small groups,
I was
marriage
thinking
status,
of
small
actually
groups.
Sunday school groups where the singles get all stuck together.
Yes.
You know, and then the kids, like Finn is always in groups for the youth group. But he actually has a lot in common with a 24-year-old woman who teaches literature, but he's never going to be in a quote-unquote fellowship group with her.
Yeah.
But if they said at the church, we're going to do a fellowship group over how to use your artistic skills in the world and be a better storyteller, he'd sign up in a heartbeat.
That's right.
He wouldn't care who's part of it.
There's a bunch of married 30-somethings.
That's his natural
Who cares?
interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm just thinking of this idea right now. I think that's where the church has really missed the boat, is they've assumed that walking with God is enough to create meaningful fellowship. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that really bothers me is so many fellowship groups.
I love that you're calling it fellowship groups.
That's
probably the right term for it.
Thank you.
It's a group that has a particular focus and mission.
I don't actually think most fellowship groups have a mission, other than a kind of not myopic, but like all looking at each other. It's not friendship based.
Sitting in a circle.
Examining each other.
Praying together.
Confessing together.
Sometimes I'll go through books and things like that, which I think is more on track.
Yes, but honestly, this is going to sound so judgmental, but I don't really want to know what most people think about the books they read. Because I don't trust their judgment. They haven't been carefully studied on how to critique books. And so I'm going to be sitting there listening to a bunch of people say things that most of the time I can think of reasons they're all wrong. And that sounds so arrogant, but when you've studied an area deeply enough, I want to be in a small group. I want to be in a fellowship group with people who are like in my military book club. I think the guy who's leading it is like a medieval professor. I want to know what he thinks about stuff. I'm very curious. I want to be in a fellowship group that I really am hungry to know what the other people think.
Yeah.
Also, people who are more studied or have gone to seminary who try to join a small group, I think they often feel like they're just handing out their education for free to these other people. Mm-hmm. I know I end up feeling like that.
Totally. And I know that sometimes I'll want to like be the leader of the group because I feel like nobody else really understands the thing that we're talking about except me. But a lot of these groups are more egalitarian, where it's like everybody has the same say at the table.
Everybody gets a way. It's like leading a home church.
Yeah,
similar to that.
You're right. And being ignorant is just as valued as being knowledgeable. And it's just that kind of stuff drives me a little bit nutty.
What kind of a fellowship group would you be interested in joining if you were using some of your vision or mission that you personally feel called to? Like, can you name a type of small group that would be
I think it would be.
interesting
I would love to have fellowship with Christians who are interested in the political process, in particular, larger political theory about how to shape state and local politics. I think that would be wonderful. Guys and men and women you can link arms with who have a passion about it. Understanding the Bible. I would love that, like books of the Bible kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But people don't want to go into it just simply like, oh, I want to understand this book of the Bible. I got this one commentary. Be like, no, I want to go to the books of the Bible, not understand it in its historical context. That is far more interesting, and everybody kind of bring what they have. Those would be fun. I think a fishing fellowship would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would think it would be a lot of fun to organize at some point a half dozen boats, guys with boats. And they take on 2 or 3, a couple of extra guys with them. We have our own little informal tournaments every Saturday. Mm-hmm. And the tournament isn't about, and that fellowship wouldn't be about, now, since this is a Christian group, we want to make sure we have a big prayer time at the beginning. And a devotional, all that stuff, which are fine. That's fine. But sometimes it feels so contrived.
Yeah,
I hate it. But I love the idea that maybe you mix and match who's on the boat that week. so that you get to know the different guys that are on the boat. And maybe there's a chance for friendship to happen, but it's also friendly competition, and that's a great way for men to connect. And maybe afterwards you do go out for burgers, and maybe you do grab the pizza, and that's the part where you're like, everybody's reminiscing about all their stories of what happened that day.
Yes.
And you're having real connection around this thing that you all love together.
Yeah, it's very genuine.
And then I believe that opens gateways and creates opportunity for friendship to happen. And there's 20 guys that are involved. I'll probably develop different, I would say, low-level friendship with 10 of them. Medium level friendship with 4 of them. And maybe a close friendship with 1 of them. And if I were just dropped out of the sky into a group like that, I don't know which one would be the one.
Right.
Or which 5 would be the 5.
Well, this brings up the topic I want to talk about. It is, what is friendship exactly? But also, is fellowship for the point of eventually finding friendship? Is that the goal of fellowship? Or is fellowship good by itself without any friendship developing?
Yes and yes. Okay. But I would say fellowship should be about the thing that you're partnering with and have association with for a particular mission or shared property or whatever it is. If friendship can be born out of that, that's great. That's opportunity. But friendship can also be born out of a bunch of other things.
Yes, and you're saying that you can be in fellowship with someone and never have a friendship be born out of it, and that does not mean anything has gone wrong.
That's right. Doesn't mean somebody has bad character.
That's news to me, because I think most of the time, we're on a mission together, this is a chance, we need to become a friend, because I collect friends like some people collect clothes. Like, it feels like a lot of security for me to have a lot of friends, and something for me to grow in because of that insecurity of wanting more friends is having less friends and trusting God for the places I don't have friends.
Right.
Not to bring more friends.
Almost like more fellowship, less friends. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry,
I need more fellowship in my life and less friends.
I need more fellowship and less friends. And I mean, C.S. Lewis has this great line, which we loved. In fact, we built all of our Solation gatherings around it. Was that phrase where he says, a friendship is born in which 2 people say, oh, you too? You like that too? I thought I was the only one. You think that too? I thought I was the only one. You feel that way about this too? I thought I was the only one. And when we could kind of have a connection of something that's inside of each other, that's like resonant, deeply resonant with us. Like, they see the world and they value something that I very much value. And that's how friendship is born. And that's why friendship can be born out of fellowship, because we both value that mission.
But it has to be more than, oh, you too. It has to be a commitment to wanting to be present with that person as you share the things you love. Because I can say to Charlie Kirk, oh, you too, but I don't have a friendship with Charlie Kirk.
You're exactly right. There has to be a mutual. You could say you too to somebody and they don't say you too back. That's not a friendship.
Right, or you
But we think that with celebrities on the magazines, like, oh, they did that beautiful article.
We can be best friends.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I know her so well.
I think there's a part of friendship that isn't really developed very well in Four Loves, which is where I get most of my ideas of friendship, at least in a foundational way, because that book was so formative to me in college.
It's a fantastic book.
Is that Lewis doesn't examine that friendship requires a sort of sticking with people through the valley times of maybe the friendship is about something is a little thinner than it used to be. But because you value that person's perspective on
in their presence,
your shared, you want them around for when you see something else new. And I find that if I am friends with someone and I have no fellowship left, no places we're on mission together, and no shared perspective on things in life, I don't usually have much of a friendship. So I think fellowship and friendship do overlap in that they feed one another really well, though they can exist separately. Well,
Lewis talks about how friendships are both they're standing side by side looking at the same thing. Right. Whereas intimacy, what he talks about, eros, love, looking at each other.
Right.
And I think that I appreciate what he said, because you have to draw demarcations to get some of these distinctions clear in your mind. But I think that a lot of friendship is actually turning towards one another. It doesn't have sexual desire involved in it, but it's turning towards one another. Be like,
I'm making
like,
space
what do you
for
love?
you,
What are you thinking today?
I want to know you. I want to study and be a scholar of you.
And I like your presence.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we could sit in the silence here while we both sip a good cup of coffee, and we might even be reading separately. I'm so glad that we met up today. Thanks for being in my life.
I agree. I don't think Lewis plumbs that as well as he could. I think that that's an important part of friendship. I think he experienced that for sure. But
for sure.
Like in our life right now, I was just noticing how, we used to have almost the exact same mission. We were running Solation together. We were having children together. We were writing books together. And then we closed Solation. I started to paint, and you started to get involved with more political things online. And now we're in a place where you're really thinking about what role you might have in local politics and working on, your career and making money for the family. And I'm really deeply engaged with my painting business, which doesn't overlap with yours, and spiritual mentoring people. And we come together in our mission of raising the boys very easily. But
and enjoying one another's presence together. But you're right. That's not like mission.
We still have a friendship, but our friendship isn't built on as much fellowshipping overlap.
That's right. The fellowship we have is that I support you in your mission, and you support me in my mission. We kind of have fellowship. Like, I really value that, but I'm playing more of a supporting role. Like, yeah, good job.
We are fellows in being creatives.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
We are fellows in understanding the times.
But some of this is really where friendship is at, where it overlaps so many different areas of interest and how we are interested in each other. Because when we're sitting down, like, I enjoy having conversations with you. And so in having conversations, we talk about just a whole wide variety of topics.
Right.
What are we fellows in? We're fellows in a whole bunch of different topics, but that's not really the point of what this is. We are sharing this together.
Yes.
And when that topic or mission is set aside, we're not talking about that anymore. We don't go home and get in our cars and go our separate ways.
Right.
I find a lot of marriages that are struggling will often find a house project or something to do to enter into fellowship together to create the appearances that they are actually friends. But all they did was give themselves an assignment to look at together, and they do a good job at being in fellowship, but they do a really bad job being friends. They have their own character defects, their own issues, whatever it is, that's keeping them from having connection as soon as the project is over.
Well, I think that often in those cases, they don't actually enjoy each other's presence. They want to have a project to channel their energy into, and that can feel like intimacy.
Totally. But I've heard many married couples say that. There's like,
I believe you.
Raising the kids made them feel like that they were more connected. But the reality was they were in fellowship, but not in friendship. Doing the house projects, and I see it. I mean, I've seen it when all the kids are moved out and everything. I've seen them go from, we fixed up this house, we do the next house, we do the next house, or they're in business together, and they do all right in fellowship on the mission.
Yeah.
In fact, they dovetail their gifts a bit. He's, swinging the hammer and she's picking out colors. They're like,
right.
Isn't it neat the thing we made together? Yes.
I agree with you.
Hold on. But when they go home, it's like disconnection. They fight, they do whatever. This whole marriage is going to fall apart if they don't have a fellowship mission type of thing to enter into.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But don't you think in those marriages it's because they've lost enjoying each other's presence?
100%.
So
that's why they are propping it up with fellowship,
yeah, exactly.
rather than leaning back on the friendship.
We agree. What I'm trying to say,
what are you trying to say
right now is that, thank you for asking, is it seems then that an essential ingredient of friendship is enjoying the person's presence, liking them.
100%. That's a wonderful definition, I think, of friendship.
Thank you. That comes from my reading of the Enneagram this week.
Oh, wow.
Because one of the things to struggle with is trying to force friendship and closeness. Not realizing that, and this is what the book said, anytime two people choose to be present with each other, you have closeness.
That's good.
Yeah, I really like that. Because I bring a lot of presence and valuing presence to the people I meet, which is why people usually feel close to me. And I do that with my eye contact. And I've realized that if I don't want to feel like a wet dish rag all wrung out at the end of the day, all I have to do is drop my eyes. And I can feel the energy coming back into my heart. And I don't feel so drained. It's a powerful, small, like tiny thing I can alter.
Fascinating. You feel your energy go back when you drop your eyes. I feel my energy come back when I stop talking.
Oh.
Because I feel like I had to buoy along conversations. But if I'm in a really good friendship and we're talking, I don't feel that at all. And that's why I find good friendships are,
pressure
are
talking.
carefree.
Yes. That's why you like the serendipity of like, you don't feel like it has to be like, and you know who's like that? Is Finn is like that too. He feels so much relief when someone just takes the tail of the conversation.
And I don't feel like they even, but yes, I think you're right.
He's in a different
Some of
place
us are more the active versus the passive side of having the conversation. But for me, I like the volley. I do. And we could volley about things that we care about.
But you don't want the pressure of feeling like the conversation is on your shoulders to come up with a new topic.
Because friendship really isn't happening when I'm doing that.
You're right.
But that might be something you have to do early on in a friendship because you're getting to know somebody and you're trying to figure out where can we land in those places so that I'm not carrying the conversation, that you're naturally picking it up and talking about it with me. I'm naturally eager to listen to it. I'm volleying it back to you. And then we're really getting to know each other through that channel.
You're right.
Of
and we had that
mutualness.
from the very beginning.
Yes,
when
we
I
did.
first met you and you were painting your room at my house.
Yep.
And I remember thinking how pleasant it was to not have to be thinking about the conversation. I could just be having a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I just realized my necklace is probably jingling all over. I just heard it jingle and it's probably right next to the microphone. I'm sorry.
Good. It's all good. It's a cool necklace. It's a nice thing to listen to.
Well, this is great. I think this is a very helpful conversation just about friendship. I hope people will appreciate this.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share? We're at 46 minutes now.
Well, I imagine somebody's going to say, well, if a fellow's on a ship is a fellowship, then friends are on a ship too. So where's that ship going? And I'm like, well, if you look at fellows on a ship versus friends on a ship.
You don't have to be friends and be on a ship together. Like, you can be friends and not be on the same ship.
But that's the word, friendship.
Oh, friendship.
Fellowship. Friendship.
I think the fellowship was just a cute thing that has nothing to do with the root of the word. I don't think so.
I agree with you. But I do think there are certain things about a ship and friendship that have constraints. And I think that we've kind of covered those. In fellowship, the ship has a particular destination.
Yeah.
But in friendship, that ship may not have a destination because you just enjoy being together and rowing and setting sail. One neat thing about difference between the kind of sailing we did versus day sailing, which is how we started sailing, is that
I'm glad you're bringing this
in
up.
cruiser sailing like we did, you go from port to port to port. Everything is a mission. Crossing an ocean is a mission. You were trying to get to the next destination. That's like fellowship. Your captain's on board, your crew's on board, everybody.
And everyone's always asking, where are you going next? What are your plans? And I'm going to go to Europe. I'm going to go to Grenada. I'm going to go through Panama. Everyone is on this mission of like long stretches and destination.
That's right. And everybody on board has their own assignment. They know what their job is. They're going to keep watches. They always help with the sail changes. They're always helping with the galley or whatever it may be.
That's true.
Checking the maps, navigation. Whereas day sailing is different. Day sailing is you both look at the weather that day and it says, looks like a good day for sailing. And sometimes you have to say it in like a Scottish accent because it's so much more fun. Let's go sailing today. And then you get out there and you're like, where do you want to go? Don't care. Wherever the wind is blowing.
You go.
In fact, I want to go on a nice beam reach because I want this sucker to fly.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you see that tree over there? We're sailing towards that tree together. Now turn. We're sailing towards this other tree over here. And we're going to do some circles. Hey, let's practice some figure eights on all the different points of sail.
And then as you do your figure eight, you accidentally set your tiny sailfish through the automatic sailboat competition, and they all are yelling at you.
The remote control sailboats.
Who are all on fellowship. They are all on a mission to beat each other as they're trying.
And we're in friendship, la 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 la, on the boat. And that's the lovely thing about day sailing to me, is you are both out there giving each other high fives and gladness and laughter and thinking up whatever adventure you can concoct because you just simply enjoy being together. And that is a beautiful picture of friendship. Friendship is day sailing. Fellowship is like cruising and going on a big long mission on a boat. And I think that picture actually helps kind of set things in a nice way.
It really does.
Because I love playing with my friends. I don't like playing with my fellows. My fellows, we talk about, we do those things. But my friends, we play. We laugh. Time stands still. And that's what it's like in our marriage, and that's the thing that we've worked on in cultivating.
Which is very...
And it's a really great thing.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. I think sometimes our back porch conversations are more friendships based, and our playfulness and just enjoying being together comes out more clearly and more often. And other conversations are more mission based. We got to get through this material. These are the notes. And I think when we were running Solation, there was a lot of times I moved, you'd call it my managerial mode, where I went into mission mode. And I remember you never really liked that.
Did not. But you're gifted at it. And so when you go certain kinds of managerial mode, I don't like at all. Because I know that you're anxious and you need to get some things done and you're concerned. That's your happy, that's your security place, the management mode. But there's another part of it too where I'm more carefree and you're more disciplined. So when you put those two things together, sometimes we irritate each other a little bit in that.
Yeah,
but as friendships, because I like your presence and I like you, it's worth working out. If we were in fellowship on a mission, it might be like, you know what, how about I get assigned to a different task because we rub each other the wrong way.
Which we actually found that was necessary on Lady Grey when we were sailing. The way we did mission on the boat, it was really important for you to have your own tasks without me. I mean, we'd have to do some things together, but
that's right.
We really did separate, divide, and conquer on the boat.
And that's where the roles of marriage should be, actually, because your marriage is like a ship. And find out, what are you good at? That's what you're going to do. This is what I'm good. This is what I'm going to do. What we're both bad at, and then we're just going to have to, fumble through that stuff together to make it work.
You're right. But that's why you can have a really functional marriage and not be friends. Mm-hmm. Not all friendships are.
Friendship is the goal.
Well, and I don't even know if I agree with that. Maybe we can save that for the next time.
Sure.
I think it's a good question. Should marriages be friends? Should people in marriage be friends?
We could have a conflict over that, and maybe you'll convince me.
I certainly have the biblical precedents behind me. There's so many couples who seem to have good marriages that were not friends. Are you
going to go into the argument right now at the end of this podcast?
I do want to point out before we close, though, that there is biblical precedent in Jesus' life and Paul's life that they were in fellowship with people, on mission with people who they were not friends with.
That's right.
And I think that is very clear from Jesus choosing 3 disciples to be close with him when he did things like the Mount of Transfiguration or the Garden of Gethsemane praying. But other disciples were not in that tight inner ring of friendship, but they were on mission with him. And the same with Paul. I don't think he and Peter were friends, but they were in fellowship.
Excellent point.
Thank you. I wanted to add that because some people like a little biblical example to think it's legit.
Now we're legit. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and give a positive review. And to engage us as artists, go to jonalynfincher.com to see Jonalyn's wonderful artwork and hear stories of the Bible. You can begin that journey at my project, livingroombible.com. And we'll see you next time on the back porch.